Welcome to the Hockey Writers Ink, the show where the writer is fresh off the presses and the ink is not dry. Relax, the keyboard is off and the press box is closed, but the mic is just getting warmed up. Join your host, Lance Green, the guardian of the blue paint turned writer, and your co-host, Ron, SteelFlyers, as we bring you all the latest on the Philadelphia Flyers. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the next episode of the Hockey Writers Ink with your host, Lance Green.
All right, guys, welcome back. Here to talk some Flyers hockey. It's been
And some Phantoms.
And some Phantoms, yeah. So it's been an up and down kind of thing with the Flyers. I don't really know where my emotions are supposed to be or where my mindset's supposed to be. They need to make up their mind a little bit, Steel.
Yeah, I'm with you. Yep.
So
well, I'll tell you what, man. First of all, thank you very much, folks, for hopping on and checking us out and tuning us in. And if you like what we do, please hit the like and subscribe, man. We really appreciate that. Also, big thanks and props to Spreaker for getting us out to all of the podcasting platforms. When all you have to do is type in the Hockey Writers Inc. and we will pop up on your favorite platform. And all you have to do is give us a 5-star rating, and we'll be more than happy to accommodate you with more wonderful content. So thank you very much for all of your viewership and all of your subscriptions. Please hit the like and subscribe. We really appreciate it. Lance, we got another great one here lined up for you folks here, for sure. Also got to say big props and thanks to Jake and the boys at Lowercase Blues for providing the great music, man. You got to be going over there and check them guys out. Lowercaseblues.net. They got swag on their site. They got videos on their site, and they also got all of their dates out there too. So be sure to check them out. Lowercaseblues.net. Check them out. All right, Lance, here we go. Episode number 187. Episode 187. And the Flyers are playing checkers while the rest of the league is playing chess.
yeah, so I'm working on an article right now about this.
Totally stole it.
Yeah. So it's okay. It's a good topic here to start with.
I agree.
So my mindset behind this is, of course, with the big trade everybody's talking about right now of Mikko Rantanen going to Carolina. Carolina made a big move, right? They traded Martin Nikas, a good player, good young player, not great, but good, and a couple of draft picks.
Oh, and
Drury, yeah.
And Drury
he's,
as well, too,
he's still what I consider a kind of prospect. He's coming along, but not, know what I mean?
But still,
he's not there yet. But he could develop and he could be more, right? But what did they get back? They got back a guy who's a perennial all-star. They got back a guy who 100-point player, 40-goal scorer the past couple of years. And they got back Taylor Hall, a former number 1 overall pick, okay? The experience there for the playoff push. They made a first-line steal.
They did.
Rivals anybody else's in the league.
Yeah,
okay?
They did. And that's exactly what Carolina needed.
Yes.
Was some of that offense to help get them over the hump.
Yep. So and Rantanen is going to bring that. Okay. So great. The Carolina did that. I'm a fan of their GM. I wrote articles in the past saying that they need to replace Chuck Fletcher with him.
Yeah.
He's a former Flyers columnist, writer. And, he did so well with his analytics and numbers and schemes and stuff that he got hired by the Hurricanes. And now look at him. But with that, other teams are doing this too, Steel. It is not the old days where I used to take off on trade deadline day.
Yeah.
Like it was Christmas. Yeah. I was just going to sit there and I watched and binge watched NHL Network to see all the trades on trade deadline come rolling in. It's not the case anymore, Steel.
Nope.
They don't do that anymore. Teams are getting smarter, right? Why wait? Until
now?
March 7th, I believe, right? 6 weeks. The Carolina Hurricanes made a big move, as well as some other teams are starting to make some moves. 6-7 weeks out from the trade deadline in March 7th, because they want to win now. They want a better seed. They want to secure a top seed, so they're playing, the teams that just squeaked in there, right? And I don't want to get down on Danny Briere, because Danny Briere has moved some molehills, as you just said to me before we started, Steel. He's moved some molehills in the Ivan Provorov deal, and he's gained a lot of assets in the way of multiple draft picks. We potentially have 3 first-round draft picks and 3 second-round draft picks this year. So we're going to gain some assets, but are they the right ones? Are they the game-changing players that, like Mishkov, and others that we need, that other teams that have went through these type rebuilds, the Penguins and the Chicago Blackhawks and the Tampa Bay Lightning, the kind of lottery picks that changed the face of the franchise for a good number of years, right? And raised banners. Because Lord knows the Flyers haven't won a championship in years, decades, almost 40-some, 50 years.
Hey.
All right.
But yeah, we're getting to
I
that.
want to see a championship in my lifetime. And while Danny Briere has maneuvered that, he needs to go out here and make some big moves, Steel. I think, let me make this little point here, and then I'll hand it over to you, just see what you think of this. But he needs to let go of some of these players that he's held on to. He's had them out as bait for so long, multiple seasons since he's taken over. In the Morgan Frost, who was a 27th overall pick, Scott Lawton, who was a 20th overall pick, Joel Farabee, who was a 14th overall pick, Steel. And great, they're first round players. They've made themselves become NHL players. But mediocrity, Steel, is what the Flyers have been dealing with for so long.
Yeah.
Like they're
the same player.
Right. They're the same players. We've had the same players. The team has been good enough to win just enough games to get themselves out of the draft lottery most years, and lose just enough not to make the playoffs. So mediocrity, like
that's the catch-22.
You know what I mean? It's a catch-22. Yeah. I'm tired of being in that realm. And I thought with the rebuild, we do that, and we gain some more players like Mishkov, but we traded back to get a player who I like in Jet, but we traded back even farther to get him a pick or two, but it's still a pick or two. I just want to see them. The Flyers have been winning, and then they lose and win and lose. If you're going to lose, let's lose. At one point before this stretch run here that we've talked about, they were losing, and I had my mindset where it was, we're potentially close to a top 5 pick if we keep this up. Let's sell these guys, these Scott Lawtons, these Morgan Frosts that are good players, but not getting us to the next level where we need to
not progressing where they need to be.
Right. So let's get rid of them, get what we can for them, and then, lose out. If we're going to lose, let's lose. Why does it matter if we're going to be 12th overall, 13th overall team? We're not getting into the playoffs. We're not being an actual competitor. If we're going to do it, lose out. And then they start winning. And then, you as a fan, and me as a fan, okay, we're going to win. We're going to make a push to get in these playoffs. And then
that changes your whole mindset about how you move forward.
Again. So it just screws with my mindset. And it's that way for so long, Steel.
So let's start this therapy session. I mean, show off with.
It needs to be.
Let's start off this therapy session by saying this. Yes, you're right. Danny has moved some molehills with the Ivan Provorovs and the Jamie Drysdales and the Cutter Gauthiers and all that other stuff and what he did in the draft. But now it's time for Danny Briere to move the mountains. Okay, we need those mountainous moves now. He's got draft capital, okay, and he's got uh, dangling bait. Whether they want to call it or not, Rasmus Ristolainen is being called about. There's other players that are being called about. What are you waiting for, Danny? Look, this team that you basically is almost virtually the same team that you had last year, minus two guys. That's it. And you mean to tell me that Walker and Mitchkov are that much of an influence on this whole team, this whole season, that it's changed the dynamic? No. The power play is still crappy. The penalty kill is still suspect. The defense is still suspect. You get offense on sporadics. The only true offense that you have is TK and Mitchkov. And you can't put all that onto Mitchkov's shoulder in a rookie year. You just can't. You'll ruin him like Philadelphia has ruined so many other players. I agree, Lance. This is the time now. Do the deals now. Make the moves now when the pot is fresh. Look, just think of all the other draft picks that you could acquire by getting rid of the Rasmus Ristolainens, the Scotty Laughtons, the Morgan Frost, the Bobby Brinks, pick them. There's a roster of guys that this team has that you could basically just move them around and it wouldn't matter. They all play the same kind of game. You could move guys up and down the lineup and it doesn't matter. Okay, there's no, and Tortorella's like, oh, there's no first line, second line, or anything else like that. Yeah, well, then why does this line start every game? Well, okay, right? If you're going to make the moves to get rid of these players that weren't even the players that you picked, that are not progressing, not taking the next steps forward like we thought they should, they've been given every opportunity to do so. Look, I'm not saying that I would hate to get rid of Joel Farabee. I think he's a great guy. You know what I mean? And do I think he's come around as a player? Yeah, but he's not worth the money he's getting paid. Do you know what I mean? And that sours you on that player because he's a good player, but he's not worth the money that he's making. You know what I mean? So that kind of sours you on him, and that makes you want to get rid of him because now he's an ugly contract. Even though he's a good player and good for the team, blah, 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 blah. You know what I mean? That whole kind of thing, right? Same thing with Scott Laughton. Look, how many of these Scott Laughton guys do we have? How many?
Morgan
right?
Frost, Scott Laughton, Noah Cates.
Paling. You could just go down the list and they're all, you just can slot the guys in and it doesn't matter. You need to have guys on the team like Jetlachenko and Mitchkov that when they swing their legs over the boards and their skates hit the ice, the other teams jerk their heads to see where they are because they're a threat. Nobody fears the Flyers. Nobody. Nobody fears their goaltending. Nobody fears the power play because it's non-existent. And nobody fears the penalty kill because that's almost non-existent as well, too. Okay? We don't have offensive threat. So it's not like we're going to walk into a building all swag and all going, hey, man, we're going to take you boys out because we'll just outscore you. That's not the identity of this Philadelphia Flyers. Now, the identity of this Philadelphia Flyers, as far as I'm concerned, in my opinion, is we will outwork you and we'll grind you down to the nub and we'll eke out a game or a goal or whatever we have to in order to win. But we're not taking you downtown. We're not going, back and forth on a shootout or run and gun. That's not the Philadelphia Flyers. That might be the offense they want to try to do, but that's not the team that they have. You see what I'm saying, right? So I absolutely agree, Lance. The mountains need to happen now this season because you're in the third year now of a rebuild. Okay? And you have to have that turn the corner moment. where you go from, okay, we're not in the rebuild anymore now, we're heading towards contention, right? You need to have that watershed moment. And I think that needs to happen this season for Danny Briere and the Philadelphia Flyers. They need to pull the trigger and get rid of the dead weight and get rid of some of all the same player, and bring the guys up from the Phantoms and bring the guys in that are out in the minors and bring these guys in and see what you got in NHL competition games. Okay? Make your assessments and then make your mountainous moves. Because Danny Briere, you need to do that, man, in order to, because you can just be Buffalo and perpetually in a rebuild for what are they on now? 14 years now on their rebuild?
Yeah. When did Hasek leave?
You're right. Okay. What? How many years do you need to be on a rebuild? No. See, rebuild means that you do it in a relatively quick succession fashion, and you turn it around, and now you're in contention. Then we need that watershed moment. We need that mountainous move. We need that. We need Danny Briere to move the mountain here and get us to the promised land, like he's promised, like Keith Jones has promised. I'm tired of the promises now. I need to see the actions. Okay, we've seen some good things. At least we know there's a plan in place, but now we need to see the actions. We need to see these things happen. We need to see the triggers pulled on these players.
Yeah, and I mean, am I saying that I want the Flyers to go out and get a 28-year-old, 29-year-old Mikko Rantanen to change the face of the Flyers? No. I don't think that's the move we need to make.
No, I agree.
But it was the move that the Canes needed to make. They were willing to make it and give up Nietzsche's to be able to do so.
Yeah.
All right, a good young player, but that's the move they need to make. Now, we need to make these Morgan Frost, Scott Laughtons, Joel Farabee even, although I like him, like Steele said, you have to give something to get something, and they need to pull the trigger on something. And, the rumors, all I hear is that the asking price is on Scott Laughton is just too high for teams. And I've heard even last year, some teams even offered a first-round pick, but he wanted more.
You'll be lucky to get that for him.
What more do you think you're going to get from Scott Laughton?
Yeah, right.
For Scott Laughton, he's an NHL player, a good NHL player, but he's been here for quite a long time, and he's not one of the players that's moving mountains to get you to the next level. So let's get rid of those players, make room for others, like Steele said, that are coming up in the minors. And to be honest, there's not that many coming up in the minors. Denver,
no, there isn't.
Archie looks bright, and Oliver Bonk, Jet Lachenko, okay, but in the AHL, there's not that one guy that's tearing it up, that's just biting at the heels of anybody right now. There's not. It's mediocre type guys that are going to be good players, but not great. Like your Morgan Frost, like your Scott Laughton, like your Farabee, just these middle of the road guys, because that's where we've been drafting for consecutive years in those teens to, whatever, early 20s picks. And it's not getting the job done. So, in what I would say to Danny Briere, if you don't feel that you're getting that first round pick or whatever for any of these players that you're taking phone calls on, and you're thinking about trading, which, to be honest, you need to make a move anyway, because all these guys are going to get pretty peeved if they keep saying their name batted around year after year in the trade rumors, and you're not coming out and directly saying, no, this is our guy, we're keeping him, stop calling me about him. Obviously, you're still taking calls on him if you're not coming out and saying that. So, and what I would say and suggest is, if you're not getting what you want in terms of draft capital, why don't you ask for already drafted prospects that teams have? The teams that are coming to call are guys on teams that have a need. they need your guy. That's why they're calling for him, because they're going to try to make the playoffs, which means they already have the players in place that they want to do so they think, and other guys that they drafted are just sitting there waiting for their chance. So why not ask for more of those type players? One, you already know that maybe in the AHL or maybe after they've been drafted, they're continuing their progression, and that's why you're still looking at them and going, man, I like that kid. Second, they're that much closer to being NHL ready to turn this thing around anyway, like Steel said, and make it a quicker rebuild.
Hello.
So if you're not getting what you want, first ask, regroup, and see what else you can get. Because a lot of those guys were first and second round talents that are proving themselves instead of a lonely pick on a board that may not prove himself.
May not. Yeah, exactly. So, get a proven commodity.
Still a question mark. At least these guys are proving that they're worthy of that pick that they had.
I like that.
You got to regroup and you got to ask for something else. Steel. I'm just this perpetual just mediocrity is mind numbing. And I've seen some other people, and maybe we're more out in the open with it because we're passionate. We're fans too, as well as the rest of you. But although we cover the team, but we're saying this because something needs to happen, and we're not wearing those rose-colored glasses that some other people that cover this team. And we're not about to come out here and say that everything's all hunky-dory and man, we like the players that we have. They're amazing. They're good players, but they're not gonna get us over the hump.
And they're not what we need for right now.
They're not what we need right now. They're not what we need for the last 10 years. What makes you think they're going to be what we need for the next 2 or 3 before they retire?
This is the other thing that I really think that needs to be addressed here. You have all this draft capital. If you're going to try and win and make the playoffs this year, then you need to spend your draft capital to get that number 2 overall pick or number 3 overall pick, because otherwise you're going to be picking at the same spot you have been picking in for the last couple of years, right? So use another idea on top of what Lance is talking about. Instead of getting already prospect ready players, why don't you sweeten the pot by adding a player onto a deal that could get you that number 1 pick this coming draft? Hey, I'll give you my number, my third first round pick and Scott Lawton and blah blah blah. You know what I mean? And make that be your deal, and you're trading up to get the number 1 overall pick or the number 2 overall pick. Look, as far as I'm concerned, if you're not picking in the top 3, then everything else is, for the most part, once you get past the top 3, everything else drops off significantly as far as your opportunities and chances for success in the NHL. The top 3 players have an average of 86% of making it in the NHL. When you go to the number 4th player, they have a 76% chance to fail. That's a big jump from the top 3 down to the 4th player. Okay? So you need, that's what we're talking about as far as mountain. That's the mountain deal you need. You need that 1st, 2nd, 3rd overall pick. Okay? That's not a bust. That's not going to be, that's not going to turn out to be the last 2nd overall pick that we had. You know what I mean? You need to do your due diligence and find look, all you have to do is give us a call, Danny. We've broken down the top 5 defensemen, the top 5 forwards, and even all the top players in all of the countries in the world so far. But he just call us up. Well, we'd be more than happy to help you out, man. You know what I'm saying, right? This is the kind of thing that needs to happen for the Flyers. You need to get more players like the Michkovs, like the Jetlachenkos. You can't be trading back to get guys like that. You need to be trading up to get guys like that. You're not going to find those guys at the end of the draft. You're going to find them at the beginning of the draft, as far as I'm concerned, for this year. You know what I mean?
Yeah. And you're right, because if you look at it now as it stands, if the final game was today, the Flyers would be picking around 8th right now.
Okay.
And it's been going back and forth. They were up as close as 6th, and then have went back down to 14th or 15th, which is their normal spot. And
Right.
but the other picks, the Avalanche, 20th overall right now. That pick that we got from them. The Oilers, they're looking at around 30th, 29th, 28th, something like that.
Yeah.
They're a strong team. So, is a 30th first round pick really going to change us in the next 2 to 3 years? No, it's not. Is the 20th overall pick going to do that? No, it's not. Now we got multiple second round picks as well. So like Steel is saying here, in this draft, we cover the team in our other podcast, Prospect Watch, a lot. We cover all these junior teams all over the world, and we've been studying, prospects for years, and we talk to them on a regular basis. I think there's 4 phenomenal, game-changing players in this draft. Matthew Schaefer,
Easily,
Schaefer, a defenseman.
Yeah.
Porter Martone.
Yeah.
Michael Misha.
Yeah.
And James Haggins. Those are the guys that are going to be game-changing players in the next couple of years. Maybe, I would say maybe 1 or 2 of those have a chance to play next season in the NHL. The other 2, maybe the year after that. They may need another year of college. They may need another year of juniors. But they're going to be threats. So if the Flyers really, really like a guy, I don't know about you, Steel, but I would be willing, if I was Danny Briere, to trade whatever I needed to trade. You got enough draft capital, and hopefully he gains a bit more with getting rid of some of these players we just talked about.
Yeah.
To move up into the top 5 and get one of these guys. Because if you throw your 8th pick overall at somebody in the 1st, 2nd, 3rd, and multiple other picks, maybe multiple other second round picks to slide back a couple spots, somebody like the Buffalo Sabres, good grief, the Chicago Blackhawks love picks.
Or the New York Islanders, the way they're playing right now.
Right? I think those guys, the Anaheim Ducks, love picks. They might be willing to move back a couple of spots if you throw enough picks at them, or, like you said, potential guys like a Joel Farabee. Give the 8th overall pick, the 30th overall pick, and Joel Farabee for 2nd overall, 3rd overall. I would do it in a heartbeat. And that's what I think the Flyers need to do, and we would still have multiple other 1st and 2nd picks. But you would gain a player that is a game changer. Another one to maybe center, Mishkov, where you would start to build a legitimate first line. If you look at every successful dynasty team type thing, they have at least a duo. Okay? Mario,
they have at least a first line. They have at least a first line and then a second line-ish. Yep. But they have at least a dedicated first line that has at least 1 or 2 top all-star type players on the
Eric Lindros, John LeClaire, sound familiar? Like 2 legit players.
What?
2 absolutely
McDavid, Draisaitl. Hello.
Yep. Draisaitl and McDavid. Grief, man. We need to make some big moves. I think we got the cap still in our way. That's going to go away after this season a little bit. It's going to alleviate some pressure that way.
Plus the cap is going to go up too.
And the cap is also going to go up. That is correct. So I think he can't be dangling that same bait out there and expect different results or bigger fish to come in to try to grab that bait. That bait is getting old. It's getting stinky. nobody's looking at it anymore, and they're starting to get less and less for it.
Yeah.
Because that thing's been dangled out there way too long.
Exactly. Time to reel that in and put that on a different hook or something,
Cast
whatever.
cast it back out a little something different, a little
Mhm.
edgier, a little bit more. Oh man, that sucks, but man, look at our return.
Throw some more livelier bait out there instead of
Yes.
stuff that's not really swimming around much.
Yeah.
Throw some more livelier bait out there. You'll attract more, and you'll probably get better calls and better offers. You know what I mean? And then you can make your pick, and then you can do your thing. Look, I get what he's trying to do. He's trying to maximize everything he possibly can out of each and every one of these players. And some of these players, you're just not going to be able to do that. You're just not, because they're too past any kind of prime or anything else like that. And you need to start listening to what the deals that they're throwing at you. And maybe it's something where you can say, oh, okay, well, maybe you can take this player and then we'll trade you for, instead of draft picks, we'll trade you for this player and get a draft or a prospect that's ready to step on the ice right now. You know what I mean? That we can play down on the AHL for a couple of games until he gets his feet wet and then bring him on up. You know what I mean? That kind of thing. If you want to win now, this is the kind of moves you have to make. If you want to win in the future, these are still the kind of moves you have to make. If you're trying to tell me you're doing a rebuild and yet you're not doing anything to help rebuild the team and you keep putting out the same team year after year with only changing two players, that's not a rebuild as far as I'm concerned. Okay? And I'm sorry, I misspoke. Three players are different now because the goaltending is completely different as well too. Okay, and that's the other thing I wanted to get into here, just just a little bit. I wanted to touch on it slightly. That we now finally have Fedotov and Ersson are now the tandem in net, and Alexei has been sent down to the AHL because of Cal Peterson's going to be out for the next 4 to 6 weeks due to injury. So Alexei's going to get down there and play a lot of minutes down there with the Phantoms, which is exactly what he needs. Okay, and we're going to get Fedotov and we're going to get Ersson as the tandem for the Philadelphia Flyers going forward, I guess.
Yeah,
Thoughts on
and
that?
I think that was the right move too.
Yeah.
Alexei is 23 years old. He needs time in net, and you look at what Askoff is doing, and he was a much higher draft pick and everything
Yeah.
like that. He's been playing, improving himself in the AHL, and waiting for his chance. And he got traded, so that he asked for a trade because he was getting tired of being that. But he's proving himself, and now he's starting to get that chance. And now Alexei came in. He played a couple of great games for the Flyers because he was hype. He was excited to be in the NHL. But when reality set back in and the grueling, season went on, his goals against average kept going up, his save percentage kept going down, and his win percentage kept going down. So I think it was a strong move. I think Ivan, is a professional. He's done it on a big stage in the KHL. He's won, the Guardian Cup over there. He's won MVP, whatever, the Vezina Trophy, their Vezina Trophy over there. He's more suited. He needs the playing time as well. I think that is going to be best for him. The more games he has in there, the more comfortable he's going to be. And we're starting to see that. I think
the better
his play
he's
is
going to
becoming
be.
more consistent and
Yeah.
more steady as he's getting the time in net. And it's only going to be good for Ersson and Ivan not to have that third person at practice, taking up reps in practice as well. So Alexei can go down there and be the star for a little bit and prove himself worthy. And these two older veterans, they're not old in any sense, but older than 23 years old, and they can kind of take it and run with it.
Exactly. You know what I mean? And so, and I think that's a good move because that's going to um, really help the Phantoms having him down there as well because of the Cal Peterson injury. You know what I mean? He's going to be out for 4 to 6 weeks. That's a pretty long injury. And having Alexei down there is going to be good for the Phantoms because it gives them a permanent type every night backstop back there who's a good player and a good goalie and just needs the minutes. You know what I mean? So
yeah, they've been playing a little bit of a carousel down there, and different goaltenders, 4 or 5 different goaltenders since he came to the NHL. And it'd be good to solidify for that defense as well, to get used to playing with one guy in net, and really, being able to trust him to make a stop, and everything like that. And I just don't think they've had that consistently.
Correct.
In the way of everybody else that's been running through there.
Yeah, the carousel. They were starting to get it there with Cal Peterson, and then he got hurt. You know what I mean? And so, yeah.
Cal Peterson is not a long-term
no
option here in Philly. He's
yeah.
Anyway. So I'd rather see somebody who's going to be fighting, for legitimacy, be in net, rather than a guy who we're just waiting for his contract to expire to boot him out the door. So
yeah, no, I'm with you. No, I'm with you. But speaking of that, let's dive into a little bit of the Phantoms here. I do want to talk about the Phantoms here a little bit, and they have been on quite the little bender here of late as well with the Phantoms, and I got to tell you, man, it's been really nice. Last night they had a sellout crowd for the game last night. You know what I mean, and they were able to win that game last night as well too. So. Phantoms 6-3-1 in their last 10 games, man. Look, they have just been on a tear. Now, Ali Lexell has been back now for 2 games. They've had Emile Andre come back from injury as well, and that's really helped boost things too. Anthony Richard has come back from injury as well. That's another big boost for them. Now he's on his 3rd game back as well. So that's a big boost for the Phantoms, and the reason why 6-3-1 in their last 10 games. And I'm absolutely 100% convinced that sending Alexei down to the Phantoms was the best move all day long, because that's going to give him that ability to shine down there. That's going to give him that ability to get the trust of his defensive players, and it's going to help him learn the small ice. You know what I mean? Look, we've seen that Fedotov was a little bit behind on his where we thought he should be as far as his comfortability with being on the small ice compared to playing in the KHL. And we kind of saw a little bit of that with Alexei, and we know that's part of what's going on because both of these players have come from Russia and they play on the big ice. So getting him down there with a lot of minutes, a lot of games, getting him that experience, I think is going to be not only beneficial to him, but I think it's going to be beneficial to the Phantoms as well, too.
Yeah, I mean, surely. Like I said, I mean, you got Cal Peterson played the majority of the games with 24 games so far this season. And, Parker has been down there and playing well when he's been asked to step in the net. But, he's not a guy that's, excuse me.
Bless you.
Thank you. Gonna jump in and do anything, as far as momentum to be an eventual Flyer. Getting a guy like Kozlov to be able to go into the net and take over for Cal and solidify that position is only going to help that defense. Is only going to help out those breakouts. And really gain a sense of, legitimacy in this realm, because we got some offense down there a little bit with Lexell and Gosher and,
and Richard,
and you got a little bit thing going on the offensive side of the thing, but getting those guys back on defense as well, like Steel said, is going to be solid in terms of just good play coming from this team, and hopefully making another playoff run and going a little bit farther, gaining that experience, that postseason experience.
I mean, looking at the, look, when you got the Bruins, the Bears, the Checkers, and the Penguins, all in your division, that makes it for tough sledding, especially the Bears now as repeat Calder champions. You know what I'm saying? So it's right now, currently they're in 5th.
Yeah.
Okay. And so you need a little bit more in order to secure yourself what they did last year was a wild card. And then they won that first game, and then they got into the playoff battle with the Checkers, and they lost 2 games to 1 in that series. But I am really liking what we're seeing from the Phantoms. It just seems like they seem to be turning the corner, even with the turnover of players that they've had over the last couple months. You know what I mean? It just seems like they are starting to turn the corner a little bit more than what I think the Flyers are.
For sure. I mean, I like their coaching. I think it's always better suited for Ian LaPerriere to coach the youth. I think he gets across to them rather well. They're more, open-minded and willing to listen than, some guy that's getting overpaid in the NHL to, hurry back to his model wife. And, I think that resonates with LaPerriere a little bit better, and to be that much of a better coach. And, Smith is there as well with him. Jason was a phenomenal player in the NHL.
Yeah, I think the world of him.
And I think he's just been a blessing to the defensemen that are coming through our system as well. So I really like what I'm seeing from them. They're actually coaching the youth instead of just putting them out there on the ice and trying to teach them up right to be good professionals. Exactly. And as well as human beings,
Exactly. And that's one of the reasons why we like what's going on down there in the Phantom. So for sure. Well, Lance, I think we got another really good one here, man. We were able to cover a lot of things. We think Danny has made the molehill moves, but now we need to see him make the mountain moves. We've got a solidification in net now, finally, where we've got Ivan Fedotov and Sam Ersson are now the tandem in net for the Flyers, with Alexei being sent down to the Phantoms. I think the Phantoms are starting to turn the corner here a little bit now, 6-3-1 in their last 10 games. They're winning a lot more games now. They're starting to beat those teams like the Checkers, like Springfields, like the Bears, like the Penguins, like the Bruins. They're starting to beat those teams now, not necessarily on a regular basis, but starting to be able to compete with those teams now. So that only bodes well for them too, Lance, we're looking forward to any articles coming out here, man. We can't wait to see the next articles. Be sure to go over to SteelFlyers.com/link/Hockey Writers Ink to check out all the latest and greatest from the Hockey Writers Ink guys here, for sure. The Batman and Robin of Philadelphia Flyers podcast. Hey. I'd like to say big props and thanks to all the Facebook groups out there for allowing us to put all of our content on your pages and for allowing us to put our shows and post all of our things out there. And we really appreciate your feedback, and we love the back and forth and the comments you guys make, man. We really appreciate that. So keep it coming. Big thanks to Spreaker for all you do and getting us out there to all the podcasting platforms. All you have to do is type in Hockey Writers Ink on your favorite platform. We will come up, give us a 5-star rating. That would be great. If you like what we do, hit the like and subscribe. This is Ron, your co-host from Hockey Writers Ink at SteelFlyers.com. Joining me was Lance Green, the host with the most.
Yes, sir. I am ready to dive in. I'm going to finish this article here and get this thing out. So, be looking for that, especially.
Oh man, oh man, oh man. I can't wait, can't wait, can't wait. Thank you all for joining us on episode number 187 of the Hockey Writers Ink. And we will catch you all on the next episode.